Right now on Upfront.
Post-debate blitz.
This was my best debate. We had a 92% rating in one poll.
I was so proud of her. She was presidential.
This weekend, Trump and Harris, the post-debate battle for Wisconsin. Just some 7 weeks to go.
We're called a purple state for good reason.
This is going to be a very close election in all of our battleground states.
Our guest this Sunday, Harris Deputy Campaign Manager Quinton Fulks and Republican Party of Wisconsin Chairman Brian Shimmy. Then the polling.
I think between now and Election Day is when we'll see independents focusing more on the campaign.
Marquette's new Wisconsin poll, what Wisconsin voters are saying 51 days from Election Day.
Jobs. They're talking about the border and abortion and all of that. Come up with some plans.
Marquette Law School poll director Charles Franklin on the new numbers. The new poll going in the field this week, and if the polls can be trusted. And the fixer.
Now I know how people like Taylor Swift feel.
Michael Cohen, Trump's former personal attorney, set to embark on a battleground blitz of his own, campaigning against his former boss. And he's here just moments away.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Just 7 weeks to go. The presidential campaign's now squarely set on the key swing states, including Wisconsin. That post-debate blitz underway this weekend. Democratic vice presidential nominee Tim Walz in central and northwestern Wisconsin. Republican J.D. Vance expected in the state early this week.
All this coming off Tuesday night's primetime debate, now likely the first and only meeting on stage between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. Trump saying there will be no more debates. Quinton Fulks is the Harris campaign's principal deputy campaign manager. He joins us now. Hey, Quinton, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Matt.
Let's start right there with the debates. Trump saying no more debates. From your end, is this conversation over? Are there no more debates?
Look, the vice president has made clear that she's willing to debate Donald Trump again, and that she believes that the American people deserve to hear from the leaders and people who are running to be elected president of the United States. And so that remains our posture. But I think it's very clear that after the debate, why Donald Trump does not want to debate the vice president again. She put him on the defensive. She was very presidential. She had him completely rattled by taking him to task over his position of refusing to say whether he would sign a national abortion ban, all the way to talking about some of the basic fundamental freedoms of this democracy. So it's clear and understandable why Donald Trump does not want to debate the vice president again. But the American people deserve to hear from the leaders who are running to be president of the United States.
Beyond the vice president saying that on the campaign trail, are there any conversations happening between the campaigns and the network still at this point?
Look, I think that, major networks have sent both campaigns a lot of proposals over the last several months, but nothing has been agreed to, and all those talks are still open.
The Trump campaign, after the debate, released internal polling saying that Trump received a bump post-debate. Is that plausible in your mind?
Anything is always plausible. It is probably highly improbable. But again, that is the Trump campaign paying attention to polls. Our campaign, no matter what a poll has said from the beginning of this thing and until November, whether we are up or whether we are down, are going to continue to put in the work. And that's the difference between the two campaigns that we are running and the one that Donald Trump is running, is that our campaign is actually focused on being out and about.
And to that, the Harris campaign, in the midst of this battleground blitz in the battleground states this weekend, I'm curious, in your mind, where does Wisconsin fall in importance at this point? And what should we see here in the coming week or so?
Well, Wisconsin remains incredibly important to us. We have to win 270 electoral votes. And Wisconsin, from the beginning of this, has been an incredibly important state for us, which is why we have been making investments from the beginning of this. We've got 48 offices in 43 counties. It's why you see Governor Walz traveling to the places that he is going. And we are going to places where Democrats haven't traditionally gone.
And to that, you're going to need independent voters here in the state to win. They're telling pollsters that the economy is the #1 issue for them, as of are all voters here in the state. Polling shows they trust Trump more than Harris on the economy here in Wisconsin still. She's received some criticism for not directly answering the question in the debate if Americans were better off than they were 4 years ago. Was there a reason she didn't answer that?
Well, look, first of all, what I would say is that we have to continue to defining the vice president and introducing the vice president. Donald Trump has been a household name, and he's been president of the United States before. And so voters are more familiar with him and his extreme policies. However, what I will say is that we know as a campaign that we have to continue to introduce the vice president, her value set, her motivations, as well as her policy positions to American voters. What I will say on the Biden piece is that, look, the vice president refers to it as good work. Her and President Biden have gotten a lot done. They've created nearly 15 million jobs and brought this country back from the brink of destruction that Donald Trump left it in. They've invested in bipartisan infrastructure bill. They've done massive work on climate with legislation. They've passed gun safety measures across this country. But specifically to your question, when you're asking about the economy, the vice president has talked about the fact that she wants to lower costs, the fact that she does not believe that grocers should continue to be able to just price gouge simply because they are looking to make more money as a bottom line.
Does she believe Americans were better off than they were 4 years ago?
Look, I think that she's focused on the future. She understands that Americans are still hurting and that Americans need more help. And that is why you see her rolling off the policy proposals that she's doing. Look, at the end of the day, Kamala Harris is running for president, not Joe Biden, not anyone else. And Donald Trump refuses to realize that he was sent home packing by 81 million Americans in 2020, and he's going to be defeated again.
Quentin Fawkes, the Harris campaign principal deputy campaign manager. Quentin, thanks so much.
Thank you, Matt.
Republican National Committee Chair Michael Whatley in Wisconsin Friday for what the RNC is calling its Protect the Vote tour. Whatley at the Walworth County Fairgrounds looking to mobilize Republican voters and poll watchers ahead of Election Day. Brian Chimming is chair of the Republican Party of Wisconsin, and he joins us now. Brian, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, so when we talk about these Republican poll watchers on Election Day, what does that actually look like on the ground here in Wisconsin?
Couple things is we recruited almost 6,000 poll workers last year by the statutory deadline that both parties need to follow. So in addition to those, we'll have poll watchers in Wisconsin. Really the role of poll watchers versus poll workers is to kind of watch the process. Our attitude, not only at the RNC with Chairman Whatley, but here at the State Republican Party, is that we want to be in the room when people are voting and when the votes are counted. We want to have observers there, which are completely legal and proper under state law. Both parties do it. And so we wanted to make sure we had the numbers this year. In 2020, we didn't really have a very comprehensive program. We had about 1,000 in 2022, and we'll have several thousand this year.
We saw an incident in Glendale during the August primary where people were essentially challenging every vote or every absentee ballot that came in, citing issues like stray marks on an envelope, not sealed correctly, issues like that. Police were called in at a point. Is that what we're talking about here? What issues are you looking at, or that you want the poll watchers to be looking at?
No, it's not. And I know people were saying every ballot was getting challenged. They weren't. But the truth of the matter is, what we're really talking about is making sure that the obvious things that might call attention to a ballot, it's not properly filled out. That is to say, the envelopes are not properly filled out or whatever. I mean, the folks in Glendale were not part of our training program. We've done hundreds of trainings in Wisconsin for poll watchers and poll workers. So my attitude is, look, if everyone follows state law, I'm great. That's all we're looking for, is to make sure that state law is followed by the clerks, by election officials across the state. If that happens, that's the best of all circumstances.
We've heard from the Harris campaign. What should we expect from the Trump campaign here in Wisconsin in the next week or so?
Boy, a lot of political tourism, isn't it? We're getting lots of visits, which I'm excited about generally. I like to see Wisconsin being the focus. I remember when we were flyover country, and now people can't get enough of us. So Wisconsin is, frankly, one of the big seven. Ourselves, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, state North Carolina, states like that. So I think almost all the focus will be in those 7 states. Wisconsin's had 12 elections in 24 years. Decided by less than 30,000 votes. So the Republican Party of Wisconsin is focused on making sure, of course, that our base gets out, but for the candidates and the state party, finding those new voters, getting people to vote early and win the election.
Former President Trump has said that there will be no third debate. He says he's done debating before Election Day. Is that the right decision?
I think it probably is. I'd be fine with another debate. I mean, we have seen the effect that debates can have, because President Trump dismantled Joe Biden and the whole Democratic Party in 90 minutes a couple of months ago. So I don't mind debates at all, but that's a campaign decision that the president won't be debating again if that indeed happens.
Karl Rove wrote in the Wall Street Journal after the debate saying that it was a, quote, train wreck for Trump, adding that Mr. Trump came across as hot, angry, and fixated on the past, especially his own. Do you think that that's a fair assessment from a fellow conservative?
Well, I'll say this, and I have a lot of respect for Carl. But the very next day after the debate, I was having a sandwich watching a baseball game on the way home, and nobody there was talking about the debate. We were all talking about it 24 hours a day. But when people are going to the grocery store and getting high prices, when they're going to the gas station getting high prices, when they're looking at mortgage rates, all of that, that's what everyday folks watching us right now are focused on, not about what happened at the debate.
Well, there's a lot to watch over the next 51 days until Election Day. Brian Schimming, the chairman of the Republican Party of Wisconsin, always great to have your insight and analysis. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, the new polls in battleground Wisconsin. What voters are thinking 7 weeks out. Charles Franklin, the Marquette Law School poll director, with us next.